So this is the Patiowell 8x12 metal shed. It showed up in 3 boxes. They're pretty heavy. It does not come with a base, so you're going to need to build yourself a base. We went with the 3/4 inch plywood. I'll show you guys over here. Two by 4 by 8 PT. You're going to need at least 7 of them, and you're going to need two 2x4 by 12 PTs for the outside ends. You're also going to make sure that you measure from the back stringer after you get it on all the way to the end to 94.5 inches, and then buck it off. That way when you add this extra 1.5 inches, it creates the actual 8 foot. And then same thing at this end. You're going to want to go ahead and make sure that you measure to 12 foot and then stack your board on the inside where the 12 foot mark is. It'll leave you a little bit of extra. You can buck it off and put some end treatment on it later. But we'll show you guys what this looks like when it gets done. You're going to need posts, of course, and bases for all your corners, a few through the center, just to keep this really strong. So we're going to do 2 in the center, 1 in each corner, 1 in the middle, and spread out the load. So we'll show you guys that. All right, there's the base, nice and level, 24-inch on center joisting. And so we're going to get onto the Patiowell, since that's what this is all about. All right, here we go. If you guys notice, they actually say box 2 of 3, box 1 of 3, box 3 of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and grab box 1 of 3, and we're going to go ahead and start with that box first. So let me dig that one out. So box 1 is going to be where we find our instructions. They were kind enough to give you some gloves. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out, separate some of the trash, figure out some of the plans, and then we'll go over it with you guys. All right, as you guys can see, it says to build a nice solid level base, which we did. And then it's going to give you the basic tools you're going to need. You're going to need a drill, a ladder. You're going to need some type of screwdriver, a wrench. They gave you some nice gloves and a pair of safety glasses. So that's pretty much your first step. Make sure you get those tools to get rocking. And then it talks about the foundation over here. So we're going to go ahead and see what we can find for these plates. And then it gives us a plate list, plate list. It kind of gives you a little rundown on all of them. That way you know what materials you have, what screws are in the box, and then it gives you a breakdown of all the pieces in their order. You got a little slip here. Talks about, notice if there's bending, make sure it's straight before you start trying to force it together. And then it goes into step 1. So that's what we're going to go ahead and start with, is step 1, and we'll get rolling on that. All right, so the parts you need for step 1 aren't in box 1, and you're going to end up with a lot of styrofoam, so you're going to want to get a trash bag. These always come with tons of styrofoam in all the boxes, so have a big trash bag or a place to put it, because you're going to end up with that and a lot of cardboard. So we're going to break down these other boxes and organize our parts, and then we'll go from there. Wow, Patiowell must know me well. Box number 2 had a nice little tool bag in it. It looks like it's pretty nice little quality for a little bag. And you also get your other bin sheet list, so we'll keep that in mind with this bin, and we'll open the next box. Okay, first problem. Sorry about the chainsaw. We live in Oregon. I noticed one of these is really bent right here on this corner. When I picked this box up, I noticed this one's got a massive bend in it. Something I might be able to fix, but you know, all this packaging kind of sucks that that was put in there like that. And it was obviously put in there like that when it was boxed, because this was folded all the way over and crushed flat. So we'll see if there's any more like that. We'll keep you posted on all the problems, but other than that, moving on. So there's been a lot of people complaining about hardly any instructions. So far they seem pretty good. Like this says the BE1 left, BE1. So basically it's telling you need BE1. If you look at your manifestation sheets, or manifesto sheets, sorry, of all of your boxes, box 1 contains these items. It doesn't have the B there. If you go over to your other box and you look, whoops, light. If you look, this one doesn't have a B anywhere on it, but this box does. It has our parts right here, all of our B's, B1, B2. So this is our box for step 1. All right, got those 2 done, and we're going to repeat the process with BE2L and BE2, and we're going to do the same thing by putting 2 F1 screws where they got the pre-drilled holes right here, keeping it parallel. So for step 3, it calls for the B1 to be your front door, and it calls for the B2 to be your back door. Then the 1s and 2s are going to go number 2 in the back right corner, number 1 in the front right, number 1 in the back left corner, number 2 in the front right. And you got to make sure that you're putting them together like a picture frame, that they're going to go together like a picture frame and lock in place with their pre-drilled holes. So before you start doing all that, you're going to connect them in the center, same way you did the other ones, the B1s and B2s. You're going to hook these 2 up with the F1 screws, the number 1s and number 2s in the center to get them straight. Then you can hook up your corners and worry about being square. All right, pulled out these WS2As, and they got a massive crease right there all the way down, yet the box is perfect. So I don't know if it was put in there like that, but sure hope I don't find a whole bunch more of it. So far we're finding a lot of dings and bends in the metal, so let's hope they aren't all like that. All right, just got to step 4 on page 10, and I had mine set further back. There's a preset at drill holes. These actually overlap each other quite a bit, and then for step 4, you're going to come in and they're asking for an F1 screw in the side. So it'll look 1, 2, 3, just like that when you're done. So for everybody wondering about the actual size, I'm going to put right here in the video a little thing of the actual size when I break a tape measure out. But this pad is exactly 12 by 8, and you can see the gap on that side's around 2 inches. This side's it's about 4 inches, so there's 6 inches right there, and you're short on the front. So it is not a 8 by 12 shed like they say it is. And then almost every single one of them we pulled out so far have been dinged up and bent, like badly. And if you separate them, it goes through every single one of them. So yeah, pretty bad shape, and the boxes were perfect, so you know it was put in there like that. So those beat up WS2As go around all the corners. The short side of this piece of metal is going to sit towards the long wall, and the long side is going to sit towards where the doors would be, and it's going to sit up on top of this lip, and it requires an F1 screw and a V, let's see what they call them, they are the V2 nylon washers. So we're going to go ahead and attach all of our corners where they go. They're all the same, and we're just going to get it done, and we'll show you afterwards. Now that you got them all in, you should have your nylock on there. You shouldn't crank down on them so hard that they strip out or blow them up. Just nice and snug. There's already pre-drilled holes, and now you got one corner on. We're going to finish these corners. All right, next step is hooking up them W1As to the short side on each panel here. There's our W1As. We're going to set them up in place, screw them in just like it calls for. I'll get on that right now and show you how it looks when it's done, but show you real quick. We got all 4 of these up, so just ready for the side panels. Okay, step 1 calls for your GS, which is your little metal bar to go on the inside of the 10L and the 10R, and then you're going to use 2 F1 screws. They just slide together. You'll see the pre-done holes. Drill one side in and do the other side. Unfortunately, my camera died when I made this one, so I didn't get that one videotaped, but that went together really easy. You have 2 of these plastic corners, which are your C2s, and you're going to put one on that side and one on that side. Keep in mind that the holes that you just screwed together, they're going to face the inside of the shed, and you should have holes on the top. And then all of your outside holes, I don't know if you could see those there along the top of that rim, they should be on the top side as well. So here's that GS piece that I was talking about, the other one that I missed filming. You can see how it's got holes in it, pre-made holes right there. So basically this is going to slide in, find the holes like that, find the holes like that. This piece is going to slide in there until you see the holes, just like that. You see how they line up? Tag one side, then do the other side. There's what it should look like. Your cross member with your little black corner going over and hooked up. One of them's black, which is the other side, so you're just going to do that times 2. Real simple. So you can see the flappers over there. So the next step is calling for your 9s to go to the right and 9s to go to the left. You're going to use this little black block, which is another GR. It's going to slide right on inside here like so. I'll have to work on that, get it in. The next one slides on that. It's going to go right up inside and hook on that side and hook up on that side over there. Then you're going to use your F1s with your nylocks and screw these 2 side panels down to it. So that's our next step for step 10. So one more confusing part the directions doesn't say anything about, but there's a channel here and we're having the L shape going up with the channel out, and we're putting the screws in the channel, and so far it's given us a pretty even reveal all the way across the top on all sides. But it doesn't say that in the instructions, so we're praying and hoping for the best on that. So we'll see how far it goes from that, but we're on to the next step. So pretty much step 11's all W1As, except for you have a WS3A in the middle. So we're gonna do like it says, put 2 on each side, or 3 on that side, 3 on this side, and then we'll go from there. All right, as you can see, we got all the walls up, following the same pattern. They're really easy to go on. All the holes lined up pretty well, so I've seen a lot of complaints about none of the holes lining up. I have to say, out of all these panels, the holes lined up extremely well, so they did a pretty good job on that. But we finished all of 11, 12, which was just the same thing. 13, same stuff, and now we're here on step 14, which we're going to be putting the ULA and the UR1 on just like they show here, and we're going to be using this WS3A and connecting it with an F1, 8 of them, and you're going to use the V2 nylon washers. So we're going to go ahead and get that going. We got our 2 pieces out. These are what they look like. They got that bend in it. I'm gonna get them put up in there and I'll show you guys. All right, so if you remember earlier, we left these ones loose because we didn't know how they go. Well, now that I had my opening here, I could measure it, and it says that I needed 44.5+ inches, because that's the distance between both of those doors added together at 22.1/4 inches. So we need at least 44.5 over here, and the only way you can get that is this piece has to fully go over this first edge. So you have to bend this out and get it over that. Pull your last screw or whatever if you didn't put them in, and make sure it fully clicks over that and screw it in. And then on the inside, once you get it all the way over it, like this one here, your holes will line up for you to put your screw in. So that problem's solved. We're going to go ahead and get them both put in place, mount them, screw it all back down, and then mount our doors. So sometimes it's a good idea just to wait and see how things play out before you start drilling holes, since they do not explain this very well in the actual instructions. I mean, it's terrible explanation, but moving on, now that we know. All right, this one's pretty basic. It's calling for the A3s and A4s, which are the big plasticky wing pieces. You got C5, which are these little metal brackets. It's calling for 4 of them, 1 on each side, just like we got here. These are the C5s. They go in like this, the no holes down, holes going that way. Then you're going to be using a ton of these F2s with nylon spacers. So it's got the little bolt and nut on there with the washer, and you're going to go through it. Except for on the C5, it doesn't call for any nylon washers. So on the center part, we're not doing that. The C4Ls, which go in as well, I'll go grab those in a second. They go down further down there towards the end. All that stuff calls for nylon washers. So we're gonna go ahead and put these together, and we'll show you what they look like when we're all done. One thing to keep in mind is when you guys are installing these C4s, there's C4Ls and C4Rs, and you wanna make sure that when they are in there, that the holes are up towards the top of the gable. So the holes need to be up on both sides. So if you lay them all out the same way every time, then you'll get the same result. So simple, make sure it's all the way up. So for step 16, the best way to do this is to actually lay them out as it shows you in the book. making sure that all the holes are up facing up, just like it shows in the book, with all these little holes facing up. And then you're going to click them together, click this set together, then you're going to butt them both together sitting upright. So I'm going to click those two together, click these two together, butt them both together, because in step 17 we're going to connect this with a whole bunch of these F2s, 12 of them, and make a giant I-beam out of it. So let's get cracking. All right, there's the big I-beam. We mated them together, bolted them as it showed in the directions. That was really hard. That thing's a nightmare. These baby little nuts and bolts they give you are so tiny and hard to get on there. It is no joke. And even using the 7mm, it was just a pain in the butt. Besides that, we're moving on. We completed 17. We're moving on to 18. It looks like it calls for another 13 and 14, but this time you're going to bolt them together, and it says to do it with all 4 bolts, or all 4 holes. So we're going to go ahead and mate those two, which we got right here. There's our 4 holes. We're going to go ahead and put them together using the F2s and the nuts. And you know what I just realized? Yep, it's ×2, so we're going to be doing that twice. There's the other set right there, so let's go ahead and get them rocking. So one of the big problems that I have noticed, and it's only in a few spots, you can see where this hole was double punched. And you can see where that's a normally punched hole. It's oval shaped. This one's twice as big. It's been punched here and there. And it's been done at the very end at the last hole as well. So that double punched causes the problem when you have a screw head this small. It wants to fall right on in there like so. Whoops. My fat fingers again. They fall through it, so that's not a good thing. So I'm gonna use a nylon washer on this one just to hope to retain it a little bit, since that's all we have here, and we're gonna move on. So here we go again, double punched hole. You can clearly see the double punch, another double punch, single over there, and look how beat up the end of this is right out of the box. Look at that. It's even split. Yet this was in the box, came out perfectly nice looking boxes. So just to show you guys, well, we're finally getting to the little A-frames. So now the 2 little A-frames he made up are going to go up on top, the 2 ends, this side and that side right there. And it's going to use the same F2s, or actually it uses F1s, no F2s, my bad. So we're going all F1s with the nylon washers, and we're going to start screwing it down. Yep, looks like we got a bunch of them made up right there. So let's get them up. All right, so both of the little A-frame tops are up, all finished. Now it's time to put the big I-beam up in the center, and it shows here in the instructions that the big I-beam goes in the center. One of the ones we made go to the left, one of the ones we made go to the right, and we're going to be using hooking it up to the C4 that we installed in those little winglets, the C4R, the C4L, so on and so forth. We'll show you when we get that up there, and then the I-beam's going to bolt down to it using the F2s with the nuts and no nylon washers. So let's hope they didn't blast a double hole in it like they have been on most of these, and that it locks up nice and tight. All right, we got them on. Just gonna say right now that these things are no joke to get on, especially these inside corners. Trying to get those to bolt up and go on, have this flange go on the inside of it right here, complete nightmare. They don't give you long enough hardware. They could have really went to, you know, a little bit bigger size bolt and nut. It would have really helped out a lot. I understand the cheapness of it, but you can see how things are all angled, kinda super flimsy, really cheap thin metal here. I mean, it is what you paid for, but let's see how it holds up. I mean, if it survives one Oregon winter, I'll be pretty happy, but we'll see. Going to get the book. We'll get on to the next step. Okay, so we finished step 20, which was installing all those top beams. Now we're over here to step 21, and we're going to start laying all these PE numbers, PE1, PE2, all the way to PE whatever, PE6 it looks like. And then after that, we'll be installing a piece of ridge cap, it looks like, to cover the top. So we're going to go ahead and start knocking out the top. All right, here we go, day 2. We didn't start till about 1 o'clock because I had to build the pad. And we made it this far. Got half of the roof up, 1 panel left at the end. It just got too dark to see. We finished at about 6 o'clock. So we spent about 5 hours on it, and this is as far as we got. I'll let you know how much longer it takes. One thing I did want to talk about, though, was after a lot of debate with the wife, we think that most of this stuff is all rejected stuff and then put back in the box for resale, because almost every single part has a damage on it. I mean, if you look at every panel, there's a bend or some kind of a dent, and it goes for every one. See, identical on the other side. So I really think that it's got something to do with that, because even some of these metal I-beams got splits in them. They're bent really bad out of shape. Like we talked about before, they got a lot of double punched holes. When they punch these holes right here, let's see, here you go. There's a double punched hole where you could see it was double punched compared to that one. And then some of these holes up here have been double punched, so you can't even put screws in them. But yeah, anyways, we're gonna get cracking and try to get it finished today, and we'll go over it and give you guys our final opinion. So here's another one right out of the box, all crunched up. So we'll see how fun that is to put together. I'll try to fix it, but there's another one. So we just finished step 21. We're down here to step 22, where it's calling for 19B and 19 to be hooked together. We'll go look at the next page on page 23, or page 20, step 22, 23, tongue twister. They want you to hang it all up there like that. It's going to be real hard to fight these other panels in there and screw them down on the top of that beam. So I think I'm going to opt for just putting the 19 up in the back, since we're already this far along. Screwing the back down, we'll finish these panels, then I'll screw the next one on, so on and so forth. I don't want it to get any more bent up than it already is from out of the box. There's that original bend on the ridge cap, and I'm going to opt to put that at the end, so that way my 2 seams that go together are nice and smooth. But even these are pretty beat up, so we'll see how it goes. Step 23. All right, so in the instructions, it calls for you to screw this down right here, then try to bend this back to get these panels in so you can screw it down to the header up there. It absolutely does not bend back for you to screw it into. I don't know whoever came up with this idea. You can't walk on this thing to come up here and do it later, so I'm gonna go grab a big extension ladder to get me up over the top and try not to muck up all my ends. Maybe an A-frame ladder, and reach out there and tag it down after it's done, because you will destroy this piece of ridge cap trying to bend it around like they're asking you to. So I already attempted it. There's no getting it in there like that, let alone coming in here and then trying to get the rest of them in. The second you pick up on this, it makes huge creases in this thing, so you do not want to do that. Then step 25 shows you doing the same thing again over here. None of that works. So we're gonna have to put that on later. And after you get it all done, it shows you tagging it home here. Let's see, step 28. Okay, so there's our little ridge cap pieces that we're looking for to fill in the gaps at the ends. I'm gonna go ahead and find those and move on to this step. And then we'll get a ladder and reach out there and tag those tops down. So far that's been the biggest issue in this, is trying to get the ridge cap on. The one I-beam was really hard to put together, and then this ridge cap, because of the simple fact that there's no way that you're gonna bend that thing back to get that top screws in. So we're gonna move on to step 28, see what we can do to remedy that, and then move over here to the next steps, getting our drip edge on. So for these drip edges, the 9s and 10s, as well as the ridge cap and this plastic end piece, it's gonna go the 9s and 10s down first on the metal, the short side hole, which means short gap here compared to long over here. Long goes towards the end of the wall Top comes up here towards the ridge cap. Screw it down in both places, one there, one over here. Then the ridge cap goes over the top of it like so. Then your plastic cap will mount down over the top of that, just like that. And that's how you're gonna do the end. Got to get the other leg on here first, but just so you guys can see how it's gonna go. That way you know the order. So that's what it should look like fully installed with your 2 drip edges. Later on, if there's enough screws left, there's another beam right here. I'm gonna go ahead and tag it with another screw there probably, and possibly one at the end. It just seems so flimsy, but we'll see. Off to the other side. All right, there it is. The second side comes with a fancy little Patiowell sign. All right, as you've seen, we finished this nightmarish ridge cap. We had to use a 4-foot ladder, lean out there, tag these 3 screws home, or 2 screws there, 2 screws there. It was a complete nightmare because you can't trust putting any weight on top of these roofs. It's just way too lightweight for that. Those beams aren't strong enough for no human. Anyway, moving on to step 29, we're gonna go ahead and install our drip edge. It's calling for all these 17As, 17Bs, and then the GCs, which are these little plastic corners. They're gonna go on the ends. And these are your 17s and 17Bs, all these little strips. So we're gonna go ahead and install that drip edge. We'll show you what it looks like as soon as we get it up. Oh, one thing before I forget, the corners, the little white plastic caps over here, they call for these F5s, a longer screw. So keep that in mind as you're doing it. The rest of them are just your F1s with your nylon washers or your nylocks. So you're good to go there. It's just the end corners all get an F5. So there's 4 of them in here. All right, there we go. Drip edges are up to our corners, which are plastic, keep you from knocking your head on it. Ridge beam down to the other side and all the way down. And if there's screws left over, I'm gonna go through and tag it in a whole bunch of places so the wind don't catch it. Let's go look at this next step. It looks like we're gonna be getting onto our doors. So we're gonna need our 20s and our DLA, and we'll make it over to the next page. So let's go ahead and grab those, slide them on like it shows, and we'll move over to the next page. So basically these number 20s got this channel. They got a lip on this side, channeled like so. You're gonna just weave it on there. I don't know if I'll be able to do this one-handed or not. All right, got it in. Goes in pretty easy. And then you have screw hole there, screw hole there. It's flat and smooth on the back side. You're gonna do that to both DLA and DLR and both sides. This side, that side, this side, that side. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock them out, and then we'll move to the next page. All right, got them all in place. Now it's calling for 2 F4s, which I hope that's all that I need because there's only 2 left in this bag. We'll see how that goes. I haven't lost nothing. So they're gonna be holding this DF on the end of the door like a door latch. Right now it's saying we need to flip the doors over and start screwing them in with the F1s, and it's gonna take 10 of them. So, and 8 washers, because 2 of the holes don't receive, one at the lower and one at the top does not receive a nylock washer. So I'm gonna put those together and move on. All right, quick correction. These were F2s that I have just 2 left of. The F4s are much bigger, so that's good. So these are gonna be used on this DF piece that goes on the door. So I'm gonna go ahead and install it. All right, got that all done, and we're moving on to step 32, and it's basically just calling for these Ds. And if you can look at the end of it, it's got a hole on the end. And you're just gonna basically stretch one from the inside corner up to the center, and another one from the top corner to the center. And this would be the hinge side, and this would be the inside of the door. So these are acting as your supports to keep the door from sagging. So you're gonna use an F1 screw, excuse me. One there, one there, one here, one there. Just pull them up till the holes line up like so. stab it, move on. So we're going to complete this door, then we're going to repeat the process on the second door. All right, step 32 is done. We completed all of that except for the hinges. So I'm going to grab the hinges, go ahead and install the hinges, and it's calling for the F3, which is the hinge, and then the F3 times 8. So all these hinges are real self-explanatory. There's no way to do them wrong, basically, except for if you tighten them down prior to presetting them all. So leave it a little loose. Just come in, get them started right in the center of the holes. The holes are punched out exactly in the shape that you need to make sure that they're going in, and then they'll always be right. You can't flip this over or flip it around backwards. It's got one chamfered side. You see a little chamfered edge in there, and that's for it to mate to these little F3 screws. So get them all started, then go through and set them after you're done getting them all started. That way you know that it won't go right or left or not aligned to the holes. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this one, that one, and jump on to the next page here. All right, final step for this door is gonna be installing these latch brackets. So it's calling for some F1 screws again, and it's all F1s, so there's nothing funny in there. We're just gonna go grab our DCs, and install them. Show you what it looks like when we're done with that one. All right, that's what they should look like when they're fully installed. Super easy to put on, all the holes lined up, no complaints with that. I will have to say these doors went together extremely easy compared to just about anything to do with the roof. All right, so 33 we completed. Everything's done on that. All of our parts are there. We're gonna jump over to 34, and it's basically repeating the build for the second door, which we've already done everything except for this gate latch. So we're gonna go ahead and install the gate latch on that door right now, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that we got it right and mounted up with our screws on each side, and that went right into the holes, everything's in place, everything is actually square and a tiny bit over 45 inches. And while I was standing here, I noticed I put my vent covers on this side upside down, so I'm gonna have to rotate those so when it rains, it's just not blasting water in here. They need to be like this side right here. That way when it rains, the louvers let the water go out and not in like this. Big old step 37. Of course, the DLA, which is door left, gonna be on the left. Door right on the right. We're still using those same F3 screws to mount it, just like we did to mount the hinges. All right, I'm gonna go hang them, get a hand to come over here and help me with this, because this is gonna be a two-person gig, like most of the shed, especially hanging beams, things like that, or keeping the metal upright while you're setting it. Just to keep it from flopping over and becoming a fiasco, you really do need two people to do this, so at least for most of it. All right, so both doors are on and everything goes together pretty nicely for the most part. But the reveal sucks. It's got a much bigger gap down here than it does up here. So I'm gonna try to loosen that one and that one, see if I could squeeze them in a little bit, get some play out of it to fix that. Excuse the lawnmower, but got it as close as I could right there. They moved in a little bit, made a real nice straight reveal, except for the tops and bottoms heights. There's no adjusting that. These are pre-drilled holes on both rails, and they're right where they were. So they close and open good enough for me, and we're just gonna move on. All right, with the doors being done, we move to step 38. It's giving you these little white nylons that you can put over your screw heads like that, wherever they're sticking out might get you, and then you're pretty much done. In the back it talks about securing it to the level foundation now, removing some of the screws that were put in place temporarily and replacing them with longer 3-inch screws. So basically we're going to go through, get it square wherever we want it on our platform. Now's the time, budget around, and start tagging this thing home. And if you were going to be sealing it, now would be the time you try to, you know, lift it up, get some sealant underneath the flashing, and then push it back down and tag it. This shed's going to be moved in less than a year, so we don't want to do any of that. But If you basically wanted it sealed, you can do that. This thing's got way too many gaps to be waterproof or sealed. I can tell you that right now. But we will take a clip of it when it rains tomorrow and show you if it gets wet on the inside, like I'm thinking it's gonna, and where it leaks from. But there's just way too many holes. This thing's gonna be a spider fest, but you get what you pay for, so that's basically it. It also talks about wind. Make sure you put this thing somewhere where it's not windy. We're on the Oregon coast. There's like nowhere you can get away from the wind. So we'll see how that holds up. I really wish they would have put 1 or 2 support beams to take the load of the wind when it flexes against these walls. These walls are pretty big with no support. Yeah, so they left us a bunch of extra F1s with nylon washers. So I'm gonna go around the outside and tag it down in a few more places that I think I should, just to secure it a little bit better. We're gonna hook up the floor, get it level, and this one's done. So there it is, the DIY shed from Patiowell. Overall thoughts, we're gonna say that it's probably a 3.5. It is what you paid for. If you want a better one, you're gonna have to spend more money, but you get what you pay for. And then, like I said, we'll put the true dimensions and all that in the description so you can build your pad to the actual size. All right, till the next one. Later, guys. As you can see, it's been raining all night. Let's go have a look. Pretty dry so far.